Well, hello, everybody. Hello, hello. Thank you so much for coming down to our intimate theater, of course, the BB King's Blues Club. How many of you attended yesterday's All Access Pass? Got to see little Anthony out here. Yeah, that's right. All right, cool. Obviously, it's very exciting that we get to sit individually with some of our fantastic stars that have been stars for so many years. And it's not only a blessing to have them with us, but also to get an opportunity to sit and just to talk story, to let you know, to help you know more about them, whether it's the stuff you know and they can explain it, or some fun little tips and things you didn't even know about them. This man right here, well, I'm going to bring out, I guess, him first, of course, but I love Jay Siegel with all my heart, so I'm excited to get him out here. But first and foremost, let's get the man, the myth, the legend. He is the big boss with the big hot sauce, Jerry Blavitt. Jerry Blavitt. Are you going to cause trouble today? Is that what's going on?
No, listen.
Yours is down there. Yeah, either one of those. Either one, whichever one you want.
It seems we stood and talked like this before. Right, guys? I can't remember where or when.
All I heard out there was a stick to dancing. Yeah. All right.
How
Good luck.
about a big hand for this young man, Jason? Jason, come here. Take a bow, will you? It seems we stood and talked like this before. It's in the book. But let me tell you about this young man. You know, we've been talking about Brooklyn and Brooklyn and Brooklyn. Yeah, where are you, Brooklyn? Hey! May I present to you a multi-talented guy. You guys only know him as a singer, but I know him as a producer, and I know him going back with a guy called Neil Sedaka. Would you welcome Jay Siegel, my main man of the tokens, the man who created the tokens. Let me give you your microphone. You look good. They got a lot of people here from Brooklyn.
Yeah, we're in Brooklyn. Yeah, we're in Brooklyn. Where? Canarsie. I lived in Brighton Beach in Brooklyn. Did anybody hear that? No.
Did they?
Oh, Roxy. I know her. Roxy. Everybody knows Roxy. I
Listen,
know.
didn't Neil Simon do a thing about Brighton Beach?
Yeah, Brighton Beach Memoirs was a big Broadway hit show. Sure.
Right. You know, Kate, what's her name? Cherokee, the girl that was on NBC. Kate, what was her name? The morning girl.
Kay Cura.
Yeah.
Kay Cura.
Yeah, right.
Cura.
She did a book about Neil Simon. In her book, she mentions Neil Simon.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you got to write a book, and we'll talk about the book.
Okay.
Okay. Okay.
What?
Sit down.
Okay.
We're old friends, and we can sit back here with new friends. Okay, over here. Jay, they know you as a performer, but I know you in other capacities. I mean, we can talk about the recording days, Warwick Records, which was owned by Morty Kraft. Now, I tell you why he cringes. Because they never got paid.
That's another story. That's a good one. I can tell that story.
You could tell that story, go ahead.
Yeah.
But Morty Kraft wind up with MGM Records.
Yeah.
Okay? And whether you realize it or not, as much as you may have did this, Connie Francis hated him. Can you understand?
Of course I can. Morty Kraft, when he went to MGM, called me and my group when Danny Davis was producing Connie Francis, and we did a lot of backup singing in her album, like Where the Boys Are album and Frankie and stuff like that. Yeah, we used to do a lot of background singing for a lot of artists in New York.
Now, that's something you guys didn't know, that they were doing backup with Connie Francis, okay, Where the Boys Are, which was written,
Yeah.
by Neil Sedaka.
Correct. That's right. Neil wrote that.
Now, tell me about the beginning with the group, with Neil and you guys.
All right. Well, I was in Lincoln High School in Brooklyn, New York. Well, I usually get somebody saying, "Yay, Brooklyn High School." What about the person from Canarsie? There you go. Anyway, so I was in the chorus in Lincoln High School, and this kid was sitting next to me in the chorus, and he would play the piano in the school band and do stuff like that. And one day he said he's starting a rock and roll group would I like to come over? Because we were in the chorus together, and he liked the way I sounded, So I said, would you come over to my house after school? And I want to hear you sing some songs, and maybe you could be part of the group. So Neil, no, see, I just gave it away. Anyway, I'll continue on. He lived about 5 blocks from where I lived in Brooklyn. So one day after school, I went over to his house, and he sat down at the piano, and I started to sing some songs. I remember I sang "Oh What a Night" by the Dells. And there's a song I don't know if you all know, but this is the one that really got him. There was a record called "Night Owl" by the Champs.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Here
We're going
come
back.
the night owl. Tell him how that goes.
Here come the night owl, right? So anyway, I sang a few songs, and and he said, "You sound great. You're going to be part of the group." And the name of the group was the Link Tones, because we went to Lincoln High School, and it was the Link Tones. And the kid's name was Neil Sedaka. Anyway, that's it. And we started the group together when I was 16 years old in Lincoln High School.
Who were the guys in the group, the members of the group back then?
Well, it was Hank Medras, the late, he just passed away a few years ago. And there was a girl in the group, her name was Cynthia Zolotin, and she had a beautiful voice. And one other person was, it was Neil, myself, Cynthia, and Hank, yeah.
Right.
And, that's how we all started. And the first big gig we got, there was a show out in New York. It was I think it was before Bandstand. It was called Ted Steele's Dance Time. You all remember that, Ted Steele? Well, we were on that show, and we used to lip sync back then, and we recorded a record that Neil wrote called Lover Lips, and I remember singing Lover Lips on Ted Steele's Dance Time.
How about Clay Cole?
We must have been Clay Cole was crazy. He was a lot of fun. He had a show, a TV show similar to Bandstand, and he had people on the show like Zachary. A very funny guy named Chuck McCann, and we must have done. He was in the New York Times building in New York City, and must have been on the 10th floor. He had a little TV studio, and it was like Bandstand, and we must have done his show 12 times, yeah.
Palisades Park.
Palisades Park. This is my cousin Brucey.
Cousin Brucey.
Well, in of course, everybody knows the record Palisades Park by Freddie Cannon, but there was really such a place. It was in New Jersey. It was right over the George Washington Bridge, and every Sunday afternoon in Palisades Park, they would have a free show for all the kids to come in, and it was the MC was cousin Brucey from New York, and we used to come in and. Again, there was no live band. We used to lip sync the records, and there were thousands of kids there because I think it cost like 10 cents to come into Palisades Park. Yeah.
We were talking about this morning. If you guys saw Airplay, talking about radio. Radio back then was really reaching teenagers. I spoke to a guy, which you'll love, Jay, and he was talking about New York City, and we were talking about radio. And I said, he mentioned all the great guys, and I said, I'll give you a name, Martin Block.
Oh, yeah. Make-believe ballroom.
Absolutely. Before our music, Martin Block was playing Perry Como, Frank Sinatra, Frankie Lane, the Ames brothers back in those days. But in New York, as in Philadelphia, they had a guy by the name of Doug Arthur, who was a carbon copy of Martin Block. In Philly, they had WIBG, would have been, remember that? Which would have been WABC in New York City.
Yeah.
So all of these artists, and we said it today, to get a hit record, would have to do all of these shows as promotion back in those days. Remember?
Yeah, they were called promotion tours, set up by the record companies, and what that was. And we used to go to every radio station from New York to California, and they used to have, then they were called record hops. They don't do that anymore. I don't think our kids or our grandkids have any idea what a record hop is.
Today you have 10 kids, you got to call out the National Guard.
Yeah. So we used to do that, and we used to come in, with the promotion guy. The promotion guy is the guy that would take your new record and bring it to the program director of the radio station, and if you do this record hop, it's a good chance they'll put that record on the radio. And if your record doesn't get on the radio, it becomes a lead record as opposed to a gold record.
This happened after payola.
Yeah.
Because before that, they'd give a disc jockey $50 in a sleeve, and he played a record. So the artist didn't have to do the record hop. So it was a legit way to make money for the disc jockey. They started record hops.
Yeah.
And the artist had to do the record hop. If not, their record would not be played. But with me, I always had the freedom to play what I wanted to do, if you recall. And by the grace of God, because he did my hops back in 1960.
I sure did.
But tonight I fell in love.
Yeah, that was our
on the
first
Warwick
one.
label.
Yeah.
But I was a dancer, so I looked like the kids. And when I did the record hop, you can tell I was dancing with the kids.
You were a kid.
Well, yeah, I
You were
mean,
a kid.
so I didn't need, but when Danny Davis says, "Hey man, I'm in South Philly," he said, "Let me hear the record." If I liked the record, I was going to play it. I didn't have the group come. But he said to me, "You really like the record?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, look, they're in New York. They'll come in and do the record up for you." And that's the first time you and I met in 1960.
Wow. We know each other that long? Wow. That's when our hair was the color of your shirt.
That's when I had a little more hair. Give me some of your hair.
Only from the back. Yeah.
But when you talk about a kid growing up and doing all that you did you ever think that it would hit where it is, that you would be a star? I mean, look at the songs.
You know, no, the answer, of course not. When we get together and we do these multi-act shows, it's sort of like a high school reunion, you know. We've known these people through all these years. We've worked together. We have a lot of stuff in common, and we all say the same thing. And we said it on this trip as well. We all, I'm talking to Anthony, or Darlene. He said, would you ever think that we'd still be doing this 50 years later, and you have all these people coming out and being so happy and supporting this music all these years later? And we all say, never, no. We never thought we would do that.
You know, and I've said this all the time. That's the secret of Malt Shop Memories Cruise. Between Alan and between everybody that's a part of it, and Jason, and the whole crew here, they understand that this audience is probably the greatest audience that was ever a part of America. Our parents worked, we lived in neighborhoods, you went to school, you listened to music, and they have recreated something that we will probably never see again, because kids of today will never have what we had. We had love, we had music, we had respect, you had neighborhoods, and if you stepped out of line, you got a kick in the ass from your neighbor, all right? And if you went home, you got another kick in the ass. If you got thrown out of school, you would get whacked, all right?
And we listened to the teachers, we listened to the parents, we listened to the cops. We had respect for all those people,
And we look at America today, and there's got to be some kind of sensibility to go back, because this is the greatest country in the world.
It is.
I mean, and when I talk to you, and when I talk to and when I see you people, I just wish that there would be more music that would bring people together. Because this man not only is a performer, but let's talk about the writing and the producing that you guys did.
All right, well, you all heard of the term one-hit wonders, right? They play a record on the radio, it's a big hit record, and you never hear about them again. So when we had our first big hit record was Tonight I Fell in Love, which is a song that we all wrote. We all wrote most of our material. So it was a big hit record. It was I'm going to do a little aside. You spoke about Morty Kraft, right? Morty Kraft was he was the president, the owner of Warwick Records.
By the way, before that, let me tell you about Morty Kraft. Melba Records. Melba Records, a group called the Shepherd Sisters.
Alone.
Alone.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons also cut that.
Yeah.
So I'm only giving you a little history so you know who this guy was. He was well respected. Is he still alive?
I think he's like 95 or something.
Yeah.
I think he is still alive.
That-
Or maybe he's still dead. I don't know.
But these were the record guys, and they were all Jewish businessmen.
Yeah.
Back then, George Goldner, Morty Kraft,
Morris Levy.
High Weiss.
High Weiss.
I mean, all
George Goldner.
all these guys.
All these, sure.
So these were the visionaries, but the real talents were the talents here. So go ahead.
So anyway, we had a big hit record, Tonight I Fell in Love, and I'm like the aside that I'm going to just go, of course, I think we, when it reached the top 10, it sold about maybe 750,000 records, and then it was number one in a lot of places in the country. But I think it reached top 10 nationally. We never got a penny for that record, and we wrote it, and we performed it. So. Because of the success of Tonight I Fell in Love, somebody knew somebody that knew somebody at RCA Victor. Now, RCA Victor, that was a world, Elvis Presley, Perry Como, all the greatest artists in the world. So we were able to get an audition with RCA Records. So we went up to RCA Records, and two famous producers up there. Their names were Hugo and Luigi. They produced 1 million hit records. We auditioned for RCA Records, and they wanted to sign us. So we all went back to Morty Kraft. This is 100% true. We went back to Morty Kraft. We had a meeting in his office, and we said, Morty, we're leaving the label. We're going to RCA Victor. They want to sign us. And Morty, this is true. Morty said to us, well, I just gave you guys a #1 hit record. What can RCA do for you that I didn't do for you? And unrehearsed, the four of us looked at him and we said, pay us. Unrehearsed. And that was the truth. Yeah.
So, but you didn't record for RCA, did you?
Yeah. But anyway, that's an aside. But how we got into. All right. So getting back to being a one-hit wonder, we used to listen to the radio and we hear a big hit by a singing group or a sing-along. Then you never hear about them again. So I said, what if we're a one-hit wonder? What if Tonight I Fell in Love was a big hit and nobody will ever hear from us
But the
again?
B-sides were good.
The B-sides.
I'll always love you. Please write.
I think we'll sing that maybe.
Really?
Yeah.
Let me tell you, he'll tell you, I always would listen to the other side. Disc jockeys, and I'm not saying disrespectful, couldn't because they had to play what the hit was. But me, I like this. I'll always write. Please write. I'll always love you. I mean, the B-sides were great harmony records you guys did.
Yeah. So what was I saying? I forgot.
You were saying you had the one-hit wonder.
Hello?
Okay. You had the one-hit wonder, so you're saying, what are we going to do next?
Oh, thank you very much. If he wasn't here, I wouldn't know where to go from here. All right.
God.
We all loved being involved in the music. We wanted to end up in being somewhere involved in the music just in case we never had a hit record again. So we were all going to college, three of us. One of the guys in the group was still in high school, actually, So let's learn about the music business, Let's learn about the publishing end of it, the production end of it. Let's learn about how you start a record company, and that's how we got involved in producing records. A lot of people. I'll tell this story, when on stage. I'm not going to go in it. Should I or not? I don't know.
You can.
I can. All right. What does a record producer do? You may hear this again. All right. Well, we find artists, we find the material, we bring them into the studio, we get the band together, and we make a record, and they're all unknown artists, and we try to sell the product and hope it's a hit. So we had a lot of success doing it. Luckily, we were in the history books. We were the first vocal group to produce a million-selling vocal record by another vocal group, and there's a record by four girls came up to
out of the Bronx.
Yeah. Out of the Bronx. They worked for the New York Telephone Company. They came up we had a little office on, remember the Ed Sullivan Theater? It's now then it became the David Letterman building, and now it's the Tonight Show building. We had a little office on 53rd Street.
Here's what we're going to do, though. I don't want you to tell them the name of the song.
Oh, no, okay.
Because let's see if they do it.
Okay. Well, these four girls came up on their lunch hour. They worked for the New York Telephone Company, and they sang a bunch of songs for us. And we said, we looked at each other and we said, yeah, I think these girls, have the potential of making a hit record. And we brought them into the studio. I'll tell you the whole story. We had a production deal. We were producing records for Capitol Records. We made a deal with Capitol Records to produce records for them. It was a 10-record deal. We made 10 records for them. 9 of them were not hits. The last record we made was by these four girls, and we came out of the studio. We sent the master to the president of Capitol Records, and then he sent it back with a letter. We're passing on this record. This is his exact words. It's too trite. So that record that was too trite, we brought around to all the independent record companies. I'm not going to tell them the record company. Anyway, that record that was too trite became a #1 million-selling record for this group, and they had a lot of hit records after that.
Now, let's see if they know it. Wrong. Who?
You got it.
Do lang, do lang, do lang. Let me hear you. Do lang, do lang, do lang.
Yeah.
He's so fine.
So yeah, we were the first group to produce a million-selling record for another recording group, and then we made a lot of records for the Chiffons. We made One Fine Day, which
Great
to
song.
me, I walked out of the studio, I knew that's a #1 record.
And you know,
Sweet Talking Guys, another one. Yeah.
Doug Morris. Remember Doug Morris who was involved with? Yeah.
If it weren't for Doug Morris, probably you never would have heard He's So Fine, because Doug Morris was a promotion guy for Laurie Records, and he's the one, when we played the record for the president of the company, he's the one who said, that's a hit record. Don't let these kids out of the office. We want that record. And he became the chairman of he became the chairman of Universal Music. He was a co-writer of Sweet Talking Guy, by the way, also. Doug Morris, yeah.
And the label was Laurie, and at independent label, and the only real group they had at that time were Dion and the Belmonts back that time. And they had a subsidiary label called Auticon with the Passions.
And Rust.
At Rust with another song, don't tell them the name of the song, that they were responsible. But tell them, go ahead.
All right, these 4 kids from Paterson, New Jersey, that's what you're talking about, right? They came up to our office and they sang a few songs, and we also, there was a lot of artists that used to come up, word of mouth, and try out. We passed on most of them because we didn't think they had the potential. But these 4 guys, we said, yeah, man, this lead singer is great. He sounded almost like, he almost sounded a lot like me. He could sing in regular voice. He could sing in falsetto. We said, yeah, I think this group could have a hit record. And we brought them into the studio, and we made a record with them that became a #1 record, and then they had a bunch of #1 records before. 4 guys from Paterson, New Jersey, with a great singer that can sing in normal voice and falsetto, and very nice guy.
Okay, let's see. Hold. You know what is it? Nah. Hold it one at a time now.
No, you're a ringer. You can't say.
You can't say. We'll give them a hint. You like young guys like us. We like girls. We all had girlfriends. What girlfriend did you have that had a name?
Oh.
We stumped you? It begins
It
with...
rhymes. You remember, now we have a suitcase. We used to call it a valise.
Denise!
We got it. Denise.
Very
I know. Denise signed it rhymes with valise. It's the only word I can think of.
Valise became a Denise.
Yeah.
Oh, Denise. When you guys split, what happened with Neil? I mean, because then you were doing your thing. I mean, Neil went on to write with Howie, all of the big hits. But
he did good.
Yeah.
No, Neil went, we split up because Neil first of all, Neil Sedaka was an amazing concert pianist. He went to Juilliard in New York City, and his goal, and his parents wanted him to be a concert pianist. He's an amazing musician, but he went on and he had this, his friend that lived right across the street. His name was Howie Greenfield. A lot of times the lyricists, they don't get the credit. Carole King and Jerry Goffin. You may not know the name Jerry Goffin, but if you listen to the words of Will You Still Love Me Tomorrow, Carole King wrote the melody, but Jerry Goffin wrote the lyrics. And like Burt Bacharach and Hal David. You hear all these great Burt Bacharach songs. Now everybody knows who Burt Bacharach, but he didn't write the words to any of these songs. It was Hal David.
Dionne Warwick and I spoke about that when we did the interview.
We were together with Dionne on one of the Malt Shops.
Right, remember? Yeah. And we talked about, many people don't realize the lyricist is the guy that tells the story.
Right.
The arranger is the one that does all of that. But Dionne Warwick said the real magic was the lyricist.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But they're like Rogers and Hart.
Yeah.
You know, Dick Rogers. I mean, Lorenzo Hart wrote the lyric, you know, and Richard Rogers did all of the music.
Yeah.
That's when they became Hammerstein and that whole group.
Oscar, yeah.
Oscar
Rogers,
Hammerstein.
Rogers and Hammerstein.
Rogers
sure.
and Hammerstein. After Larry Hart died. You know, it's so interesting the way this whole music has gone. But you've done more. Did you enjoy writing, producing?
Well, it's like apples and oranges. You know,
Right.
of course we enjoyed, you know, that we created an unknown group or a single artist and we made them big stars, you know. But I think the most rewarding thing for me in my career is being with you guys and the live performance. There's nothing like that. I can't explain the feeling that we get that you give us,
Love,
you know.
the love, the love that comes.
You know, we love producing records. We made, you know, I don't know if you're familiar with a guy named Tony Orlando. You know, my old best friend. We produced Candida. We produced Knock 3 Times. We produced this little hit called Tie Yellow Ribbon. You know, for the happenings, we produced See You in September. I Got Rhythm. Yeah, we were in the if we weren't in the studio recording records for the Tokens, we were recording for, you know, trying to make, you know, all these unknown artists stars, and we had a lot of success doing it.
You know, you talk about Tony Orlando. Back then, Tony was also with the Brill Building.
Yeah.
The Brill Building. You know, you're familiar with the Brill Building? The Brill Building in New York City was between Jack Dempsey's and the Turf, the
Yeah.
restaurant on Broadway, 49th and Broadway. And if you could recreate, and we said this with Anthony, I think, yesterday, nobody has been able to nail what the record business was back then.
Oh no, I know.
I mean, nobody's made a motion picture. They've tried it and they do this, but it was an exciting time for a kid. You'd walk up and down Broadway and you'd see this guy and that guy. Where are you going? We're going to trying to get our record peddled. We're trying to do this.
Yeah.
We're trying to get a record
Well,
label.
when we used to make these records, we used to, like the Chiffons record, we would, you know, in New York City, there were 1 million independent record companies. Other than, you know, Columbia or RCA or Decca, there were these little companies like Lido Records, Warwick Records, you know, Old Town.
Laurie, Russ,
Yeah, all these records.
Old
So,
High
yeah,
Weiss.
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so we used to. There was 1 million little, you know, independent record companies, and that's how we used to. We used to. There was an office that I was involved in for many years, and his name was Don Kirshner. I don't know if you're familiar with Don Kirshner. He had an office, another building. It was 1650 Broadway. So in his office there were little cubicles, and there was a piano, a legal pad with a pencil, a little table with an ashtray. Everybody smoked then. And in one room was Carole King and Jerry Goffin. And another room was Barry Mann and Cynthia Wilde. Then you had David Gates and you had Neil Diamond and this. Every one of these little offices, they were all sitting, writing. Well, if you all saw the musical Beautiful, you know, about Carole King, there's a lot of truth, you know.
Yeah. That was
told
the
it.
Tin Pan Alley. That's where the name Tin Pan Alley came out. Because back in the 30s and 40s, all those writers were doing what we were doing then in the 60s and the 70s. Yeah. So when people say Tin Pan Alley, like he just explained, everybody had a little thing and you're writing, you're doing, and you're trying to get the song published. Kirshner had a publishing company called Alden, and Bobby Darin worked for Donnie Kirshner. Bobby Darin not only was a great talent, but also a great songwriter.
Oh, yeah.
He wrote all of the hits, Splish Splash and Dream Lover, and all of that stuff. And, you know, I never forget Darren saying to me, he was in town at the Latin Casino in Philadelphia, and he was married to Sandra Dee. And I was doing a radio show on WCAM in Camden, and I was doing late night. I always did late night radio because that's when kids listened. Yeah. Kids didn't listen during the day. They listened from 6 o'clock to 11 o'clock or what. So I would take all the guys out who were with the radio with me. We'd go to a little place called Chubby's in Jersey. You know, I think we went there one time. Yeah. Right. And so we're eating at 12:30, and Chubby says, hey, Gator, this guy wants to talk to you. And it was Bobby Darin. He said, look, I'm in town. I'm at the Latin. You didn't come and see me. He said, Kirshner told me where to find you. We went over to the Warwick Hotel, all right, at 2 o'clock in the morning. from 2 o'clock to 6 o'clock. Donnie Kirshner, myself, Sandra Dee was sleeping on the couch. And she was this skinny. She was this skinny, sleeping on the couch. And we talked about you. We talked about the great artist. And Darren would said to me, you know, the Tokens, they were underrated. And I said, right? He said, because they were better writers, he said, but they were great singers, which was really the truth when you get down to it.
Well, they were, you know, Bobby Darin and Don Kirshner were very, very close. In fact, Bobby Darin and Sandra Dee got married in Donnie Kirshner's apartment, and their first child, Donnie Kirshner's first child, was named Darin. He named his first daughter Darin after Bobby Darin.
Yeah. His son's name was Todd. Todd.
Yeah.
Now, there was a great talent. Bobby Darin, when you talk about a great and died too young.
Oh, yeah. He
Yeah,
wasn't even 40, right? He wasn't
No,
even
he
40.
wasn't. No, he was 30, something like that.
In his 30s, I think.
Yeah.
36, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you know, the great. Tell me about what you think about some of the writers today. I don't know if there's any writers today.
I don't know how to comment on that.
You know, you don't have any songs today.
No, see what he just said? Songs, a melody and a lyric, a melody that you could all sing along with, and you remember the words. I don't know what, you know. Okay, Taylor Swift, you know, it's something. I'll tell you what, I think real songs and real singers, a lot of the country music has that. Country music is about the closest to, you know, music as I see it today. Is
You know,
the country
Jay,
music.
every one of the great black rhythm and blues artists, Gladys, when I spoke, Marvin Gaye, they always said country was as soulful as rhythm and blues because it told a story. If you saw Gladys Knight last night, if I were your woman, if you were my man, neither one of us want to say goodbye. And here's a great story I think you know. Gladys left Motown because she had a hit called I Heard It Through the Grapevine, okay, climbing on the charts. What happened was Marvin Gaye was Berry Gordy's brother-in-law, okay? He was married to Anna, Berry's sister, and he needed a hit. Berry pulled Gladys's record out on Soul, had a subsidiary of Motown.
Soul Records, right?
And he had Marvin record it, and he stopped promoting Gladys' record. Marvin's record became #1. Gladys said, I'm out of here. Same thing with the Isley Brothers, This Old Heart of Mine. What happened, he was going to release it. The Supremes also had a version of that. And I Guess I'll Always Love You. He was going to release it. Isley said, out of here. Now, the interesting thing, Jay, going back with country, the writers of all her songs at Motown was a writer by the name of Jim Weatherly.
Okay.
Jim Weatherly. She took him when they left. He wrote a song called Last Plane to Houston. She said, Jim, I'm from Georgia. We don't take planes. It's got to be a midnight train to Georgia. And she became very soulful doing country.
Yeah.
So country really is the essence of what we do with rhythm and blues.
Oh yeah. When I was a little kid, there was a station. I lived in New York. I still do. It was the call letters were WJZ, and they had a record. I was like a little kid, 10 years old. I don't know. There was a show every afternoon called the Hometown Frolics, and that's when I first heard Hank Williams and Lefty Frizzell and Little Jimmy Dickens. I don't know if you all know who these people are, but I remember when I was a little kid, and I lived near Coney Island, you know, and if you could put like a 25 cents in a little machine, you could make a record, you know. And I remember when I was about 10 years old, I sang Lovesick Blues, and I was able to yodel back then. I was a Brooklyn yodeler, you know. And I loved country music. I still do, you know.
You know, it's funny, you're talking about all of that, and that just shows you, as a musician, as a talent, you listen to all kinds of music. You know, Anthony said today, which was the truth, when we've done, when you guys were on stage, there was another artist watching your moves.
That's right.
Would take a little bit of that move, apply it to themselves. The greatest was Sammy Davis Jr. Sammy, and it's in the book because I was his best man. Sammy could do anything. He would watch a drummer, and he would emulate that drummer. He would watch a comedian, and he did comedy. So the secret is you look and you watch from other performers.
Yeah, absolutely. We all did. Sure.
As you look back right now, anything that you figure that you would have liked to done that you haven't done as of yet?
I don't know. I mean, listen, when I grew up, most people that I grew up with, I grew up in a pretty blue-collar, neighborhood. Most people that I knew of, including my own parents and my brother, they hated Mondays and they couldn't wait for Friday, right? Now, I ended up in a business which I never thought would ever happen, that I couldn't wait to go to work, and I still feel the same way, how could you make a living doing something that you really love to do? You're fortunate. We do what we love to do.
We don't work a day in our lives. We really, ladies and gentlemen, we don't work a day in our lives.
Except when you go to the airport.
Yo!
That's the work. I always say, the work is not the performance. The work is getting there. That's the work.
I don't know any performer today, okay, he's giving us a couple of minutes, that doesn't say the same thing. Frankie Valli says, I can't do it. Avalon says, I can't do it. Chubby don't want to do it. The only smart one was Aretha, because she never flew. She took a bus. She had a bus as big as a house.
Yeah,
So, listen, Lion sleeps tonight.
That was
Give
good.
me the story about that, okay?
I remember that one. Yeah. Right,
This man is the only man to have 2 #1 records, all different time, different periods.
Okay, when I was in high school, I had a very eclectic taste in music. I like classical music, I like country, and I like folk music. And I was listening to the radio one day, and I heard there was an album called The Weavers at Carnegie Hall. Now, I don't know if anybody know who Pete Seeger and the Weavers. They were the biggest folk act in the 50s, bigger than the Kingston Trio. They were major. So they made an album called The Weavers at Carnegie Hall, and I was listening to the radio, and I heard them do this cut called "Whim Away." It wasn't "The Lion Sleeps Tonight." It was just a song called "Whim Away." There was no lyric to it, and Pete Seeger would do this falsetto, and I just loved. I thought this was great. I bought the record, and I learned the melody, and I taught it to the other guys, in the group, and we just would sing it for fun because there was nothing like that. It wasn't rock and roll. It wasn't this. It wasn't that. It was very unique, and we used to sing it just to warm up, before a show or something, and one day when our contract was running out at RCA Victor. We had another one session left to go to see if they're going to re-sign us to make a record. So we went up to Hugo and Luigi. Those were our producers, and we started to sing "Whim Away." Lyric, just the falsetto melody and that chant in the background, the "Whim Away" chant. And they looked at us and they said, "Yeah, that's very interesting, but there got to be some kind of lyric to it, and maybe we could make this into some kind of a record. What does the song mean?" So I know it was written by a man called Solomon Linda in 1939 from South Africa. And he had a group called the Evening Birds, and they were like a big recording act in South Africa. So I went to the South African consulate in New York, and I said, "What is "Whim Away"? What is this song about? What does it mean?" So the actual title was called Mbube, Mbube. So somehow Pete Seeger got a hold of this record from South Africa, and he thought it was "Whim Away," not Mbube, So that's how it became "Whim Away." Yeah. So we went to the South African consulate, and I said, "Well, what's the meaning of Mbube?" Well, Mbube means lion in Zulu, I think. All right. I said, what is this song about? He said, well, this song was called, it was regarded as an African lullaby. So what do you mean? You know, I did a lot of research on microfilm. Anybody remember what microfilm? You know, you remember that? Yeah, okay. So I found out that the meaning of this Mbube and this melody was, the African tribes used to go out on a lion hunt in Africa, and if they would sing this song, this falsetto, you know, I'm not going to give it away now. But if you sing this song, it'll put the lion to sleep, and then they could make their kill, and everybody would have lion meat for the next 3 months, and nobody would starve. So anyway, I came back to RCA Victor, and I told the story, you know, of what this song really means. And there was a songwriter up there. His name was George Weiss. He had a lot of success. He wrote "Can't Help Falling in Love," and he wrote "What a Wonderful World." And he came up with the lyric, "The Lion Sleeps Tonight." We came to the recording studio, and he handed me a yellow legal pad with the words of "The Lion Sleeps Tonight." And we're singing it, and he said, this doesn't fit into the melody that I've heard on the radio that we would sing. There's too many lyrics to fit into this melody. So in the studio, we sat down at the piano, and I created the second part of the lyric, you know, the second part of the verse. I created that melody in the studio so it would fit into the, into the melody. So we finished the record. And it was a very strange recording session. Why it was strange was the rhythm this is rock and roll days, right? The rhythm guitar was not a guitar, it was a banjo. Then he brought in a singer from the New York Metropolitan Opera. Her name was Anita Darian. She was a soprano in the New York City Opera. And then he brought in a clarinet player with a soprano saxophone. What kind of record is this? It has an opera singer, a banjo, a soprano saxophone. He says, who's going to play a record like this? So we made the record, and 3 of the guys in the group didn't want this record to be released because they say it's too strange. It's weird. And I said, well, maybe that's why the record should be released, because it isn't. There's nothing else like it. And they tell me today there's still no record like that. You know, that's
Absolutely.
You know.
Number one, 2 times. Number one.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, Jay Siegel.
Thank
my
you all.
Man.
Yeah, thank you. And
Yeah.
this guy is, you know, the Encyclopedia Britannica? He's the Encyclopedia Britannica of rock and roll, this guy. And you know what's great about him? He's just as much of a fan as you guys are. He loves the music. He knows the B-side. He loves the artist, and we love him. We do.
I love you. Jay Siegel, ladies and gentlemen. Take a bow.